Okay, let's look at this. Advocate for your child, they say. Okay, at the beginning of the school year, you complimented the teachers on their close attention to your son's hygiene. Your son's mask would be changed 2 to 3 times a day, which was absolutely needed. Once you started expressing concerns and asking questions about curriculum, this has been taking place. And what is the this? Okay, let's look at the this. This is what's been taking place. Um, there's this image, and then also this one, and I didn't do this one in color. I mean, obviously, when you put it in color, there's far more. You can see the outlines here, and that it's disgusting. Here's another one. Um, and so this is just in one day. I'm assuming because by saying that in the past there's been multiple changes, 3 times, 2 to 3 times a day of the mask because of this. And you sit there and you go, well, that's really petty for people to be so receptive. But let me put it this way, okay? I think that sometimes we look for reasons as parents, but also educators. I think it goes all ways. Anytime humans are trying to communicate with each other and get a point across or try to collaborate, that's where it gets sticky because then you got all this misinterpretation and people listening to another person in whatever manner that they want to take that information. And do I frequently see in the business of special education, and I just had this conversation the other day with a parent that you pretty much have a good year and a half or 2 year where once a settlement agreement is in place, or once you've reached a breakthrough with the IEP team, and things are going well, it tends to last for about a year and a half to 2 years. And then you start seeing this decline for a myriad of reasons. And then you end up having another hiccup, sometimes big ones, sometimes little ones. And the reason that is, I've learned through experience, is that you're dealing with human beings, number one. So if your child's in the same place, people just start relaxing, and that's including the parents. I mean, things are going well. You sort of back off, on, your typical alertness on what's going on with your child's program. So it's not just a one-sided issue. And you sit there and you go, well, it's exhausting being the watchdog. Yeah, it's called parenthood, and that's. But by no means am I sitting there saying that as a parent myself of a child with an IEP that we have somehow been immune. We have not been immune to these issues, and our daughter's program has tracked around the same way. Good year and a half or 2 years where everything's been great, and then of course we run into hiccups. Some of which have nothing to do with the school staff. It's more administrative decisions, staff changes, the child moving to a different school. All of those things can sit there and throw things out of whack. But one of the things that does happen is a decline in people's attentiveness for whatever reason. Now, does that decline in attentiveness, in interest or concern, because it's not their child, it's your child? And you can come up with a myriad of excuses. I have too many kids in the class. He won't listen to me. We didn't realize it was that dirty. You got a myriad of excuses already prepped and canned to hand deliver to you, and that's what you're going to get. What you need to sort of be cautionary about is equating the decrease in concern and attentiveness to your son's mask issues to them potentially retaliating. I am not saying that that's not the case. It very well could be the case. But if the last year or 6 months or a couple months hasn't shown you that people are real susceptible to jump on uh, various conspiracies without the necessary documentation or evidence to back it up. And I'm not by any means immune to, seeing monsters under every bed. Um, I and I'm being sort of selective in using my words, because what I'm saying is that what you don't want to do is prejudge without verification, because what that ends up doing is other people can sense that, and then they get their backs up, and then you respond, and it's an unnecessary cold war. um, Honest, transparent conversation works more so than anything else, and done in a very professional, non-emotional way. All right, because in what we're dealing with here is going to be emotional. I mean, as a parent, I'd be pissed off. I can't tell you how many parents that I represent have sent over the years pictures of their child with major rash issues because their pull up or diaper hasn't been changed all day. Um, I mean, in situations like this, those things really do border on lack of care, negligence. Um, Things that teachers would call DHR for, or CPS, against you if you sent your child to school in a mask that looked like that. I don't think it would take much for somebody to submit a mandatory report against you. But the thing about government is I found that they have rules for us, and then they have rules for themselves. The standard of care for parents and the standard of care for a public school are not the same. Should they be? Well, hell, the school's standard of care should be higher, quite frankly, um, or at least on par. But you would expect, with all these resources and with all these people around, that the standard of care, would be a little bit better than even what a child would receive at home, being that most parents have limited resources, and there's one or two of them, as opposed to an army of potential caring and loving staff that should be trained thoroughly. So how do you deal with things like this? Well, you deal with it through an IEP meeting. You deal with it, and I would be really careful. And I know you asked us in December before the break, so you may have already done something and resolved itself. But this is a good um, lesson for, or I guess I hate to say the word lesson, because it's not like I'm teaching anybody. I'm just sharing my experience, and then you guys can take it and apply it in your individual fashion as you deem fit. Okay, I'm not telling people what to do. I hate that. I'm making recommendations, based upon my experiences in doing this, and in dealing with people, and trying to reach middle grounds, while maintaining an optimal relationship on your team. And because we're dealing with human beings, feelings get hurt. People misinterpret all the time. And so this is a constant battle that a parent has to be mindful of, because you're dealing with your child, and your child is going to be the utmost important. And then, of course, if something like this is occurring with frequency, then at that point I can see where people's blood would boil. But at the same time, the most optimal way and a path forward is going to be keeping your emotions in check, um, on the outset, not being prejudicial with regards to how you've interpreted the situation, gather more information as to what the issues are, and then taking that to the IEP team or talking to the staff directly about it, instead of jumping over that individual to their boss, because once again, going over them to their boss then potentially creates another whole bunch of misinterpretations, bad feelings. Um, it's rare that I see retaliation towards a child because of what a parent has done. It's sort of rare. Not saying that it hasn't happened or doesn't happen. I do see it, but it is sort of rare. Um, most adults can stay in their lane and realize that adult issues or adult disagreements are between adults. There are juvenile, immature, and disgusting adults that do play kids against their parents or play kids at school against people that it happens, and those individuals should not be working in a public school or around children. They shouldn't have children if that's the way they're going to use them as some kind of petty pawn in some, master deceit game to injure or hurt somebody unrelated. The kid didn't ask for that. And we damage a lot of kids that are involved in adult decisions. COVID, the shutdowns, for example, these are all adult problems that we've inserted a bunch of innocence into. And we've done a bad job, bad job managing it, bad decisions. We politicize the hell out of it. And, there's been rampant inconsistencies and folklore out there that has been driving a lot of these decisions, and it's damaged our kids. But that's how I would address it. I would try to address it with the staff first. And if that doesn't work, call an IEP meeting, try to address it there in writing, which you would have an LEA there, okay, which would be whatever, an administrator. And I would take an approach not to tell on them, but just addressing this issue from a neutral, non-emotional issue. You would still be accomplishing the same thing. And then if that still doesn't work, then you go up the chain and um, try to deal with it through their superiors, through a potential complaint for negligence or lack of care, um, because that is concerning. But like I said, you just sort of have to build that, because the primary factor is making sure that you keep a positive relationship on your IEP team to the best of your ability, and also finding out why all this is going on and ensuring that you're not misinterpreting what's happening. That's my recommendation.